Last night, people protesting in
letting people talk you up your password.
So you might go back forwards. How do we build a movement that allows us to respond to all the names that people don't know?
People begin to think it's isolated. That's the problem. We're not angry enough.
This is Life After the Impact, a podcast for impacted families by impacted families. The focus is on what happens after the media, the lawyers, and the activists are gone.
When the cameras are gone, people leave. We have to beat up for each other.
Impacted families are left to face the loss of a loved one to police-sponsored violence. We will focus on their continued fight for justice and how we can get involved.
I thought family, fight, everybody can do something, but you don't have to sit home and feel helpless and hopeless. We gotta stop allowing people to come about our power. That's the main thing.
But we gotta start somewhere. Might as well go ahead and start here. We didn't.
The bill I'm working on now is 742 is a canine bill because the California Police Department wants to bring the canine back in to have this own little force. So these dogs can have the ability to bite us, right? To make an arrest. Matter of fact, to use of force on you through the dog bites rather than them just beating you down. They'll put these dogs on you now. But there's, and just kind of going through a backdrop, there's a history within our DNA concerning these dogs running us down. You know what I'm saying? And so
Enslavement period.
Exactly. And so we're arguing that this canine force don't need to be in existence. These dogs bites don't need to happen. And we don't want them to have free reign with these dogs, these canine dogs, to be able to just chase you down and just eat you alive or bite and put holes all in you, right? Because these dog bites are pretty severe.
Good evening. My name is Roxanne Johnson. My son's name was Jamal Bird. He was killed by DC Metropolitan Police, October the 1st, 2019. I'm here with my co-host. Good evening, LaToya. How you doing this evening?
Good evening, you guys. My name is LaToya Benson. I am the mother of the lovely Xavier Hill. Xavier was killed by 2 Virginia State police officers on January the 9th, 2021 at the age of 18. We have the honor of being joined tonight by Mr. and Mrs. Andrew Joseph. Do you guys want to go ahead and give yourselves an intro, please?
Yes, my name is Deanna Joseph, and I'm the mother of 14-year-old Andrew Joseph III.
And I'm Andrew Joseph Jr. My son was Andrew Joseph III. He was killed in Tampa, Florida, February 7, 2014. Hillsgrove County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Could you tell our audience a little bit about what happened to your son?
Yes, my son as a 14-year-old on a Friday night had asked permission to attend the school fair that our school district provided tickets to. Andrew and some of the neighbors and children in our community, the carpool mother, which was my neighbor, transported the children to the fair. And on this particular night, Andrew was excited. He had friends that he had planned this event with. They were gathering their best of outfits so that they can go to the fair. Andrew shared some of his clothing with some of the young people who were in our home. They were testing many scents of cologne just to be able to smell good on that night. And on that particular evening, I just never envisioned that I would not see my son again. And I also never envisioned the fight that would be ahead of me when I realized that my son went to a school-sponsored event where law enforcement, Hillsborough County Sheriff deputies were working as chaperones and supervisory, would take my child and unjustly profile him because the gang task force were working that night. They would also handcuff and shackle and take his clothes off, looking for gang identifiers on his body when he had no affiliation with any gangs. It was also very disappointing to learn that Andrew, in his attempt to rectify the issues, he was turned away on multiple occasions as he was trying to explain to the officer who was detaining his Little League teammate, Robert, that they had done nothing wrong. Robert, who had lost his hat and shoe on that evening, as Andrew was riding the Ferris wheel, and then standing in line for the Ferris wheel, saw that Robert hat and shoe had fell down and just simply picked up the hat and shoe and gave it back to him. And Corporal Mark Clark detained Andrew, handcuffed him, shackled him, and took him into custody, which was an unjust detention, which was an unjust arrest, and definitely was an unjust level of taking a child into custody, transporting a child from one location to another location, and abandoning that child on the road at night with no call to a parent. And that child subsequently being killed as a result of those actions. So it has been a long journey. As my husband said, this was February 7, 2014. And it took 8.5 years to ever see a day in court because of the ending, the qualified immunity that these officers have.
Mm. Mm.
I think that's one point I wanted to make. Like you said, people say like in the raid all the time, like qualified immunity is not just when someone is shot by the police. Deanna and Andrew's son was killed leaving from a fair. They let him, y'all, I'm not gonna read like people she said, y'all heard said already, but qualified immunity is only effect when someone is only like shot by the police. Deanna, can you kind of go more into detail about what you had to go through as far as the hoops are concerned with qualified immunity?
Yeah, man, you gotta realize that, we went 8 years without a police report. They never really told us what happened that night. I mean, they were able to file qualified immunity and for the most part, if me and you went to court, we would have to get a verdict before we can file an appeal. With qualified immunity, they can file an appeal at every junction of the case. Every time that they file an appeal, it ties the appeal up for about 16 months. And the appeal is most time is out of town. Our particular appeal, of course, was in Atlanta, and it's not a jury appellate court. It's composed of 3 judges from 3 different states, and it's constantly changing with 3 judges that you get. And these 3 judges hears your case and makes a decision on your case, and then sends it back to the lower court. And that process takes about 16 months. So every time that they file an appeal, in our case, they filed for five appeals in the course of 8 years. And it's just a process that ties up your time, because this is built to kill you. This is built to kill you. This is built to dig in your pocket. This is built to mess with your mental state. You go from putting the pistol in your mouth to wanting to put the pistol in everybody's mouth. So this is an emotional roller coaster. And most families die during that time of bereavement of their loved one. And you have to learn how to get out the bed again and, go back to work and just some kind of new normal. But you're actually an infant starting all over again without your loved one in your life. So, that's the beginning of qualified immunity. after we go through the whole ordeal and put our life on the courtroom's floor in front of an all-white jury consisting of 8 females and 2 white males, and just put your whole life story on the line and get a verdict in the state of Florida against the sheriff. It's pretty hard way to begin with, you know? And you get this verdict and you think you have some kind of closure, some kind of ending to this struggle. And then 72 hours later, they appeal that verdict.
Really?
We kind of qualified immunity. So, you know, we would have to get signatures from the governor, Ron DeSantis, the Ron man, DeSantis. We have to get signatures from the governor, and all kind of Congress would have to approve it. So, you know, it's another whole fight.
Yeah. And I think the most of the theater that too will not. Did I hear you correctly? Did you say that within 72 hours of getting the verdict that they did the appeal for qualified immunity?
That's correct.
Wow, that's crazy. And I think even that part can be discouraging too, because when you think you gotten a good verdict and they're gonna be on your side and you think the fight may be over, then it's like, no, there they go again with another appeal.
Now, this is, and we understand at this point that this is a fight forever. This is a fight forever. This is a life sentence. The fight is never over. Every loop that you think you done ran through, there's two, 3 more loops that's already set up waiting for you.
So it's kind of like a fixed fight.
It's correct. It's correct. It's correct.
Before you even get in the ring, right? Yeah. So I know you two are very involved in what we have been of the movement of impacted families, because we are definitely creating a movement so that we can change these systems. What have you done? I know, you know, it's difficult as an impacted parent myself, but what kinds of things have you have done? I know you guys have a foundation. What kinds of things have you done since you know, having to deal with all of this court?
Well, I would like to first give credence to setting legal precedents. That in itself, in a trial, and having a favorable verdict, set legal precedents for other cases that would follow.
Yeah.
A settlement could not have done that.
That's right.
So we had to do the 2 weeks of a trial to be able to set a legal precedence.
That's right.
And have this moral victory.
That's right.
That would shed light on the innocence of 14-year-old Andrew Joseph III. So
and I think people don't understand that, Deanna. They don't understand like the necessity of setting the precedents there. You know, and people really don't get that. That's why you're not in a fight for yourself, because if that's the case, and you wouldn't settle the case and said, all right, I'm out of here. You know, but setting that precedence helps our people going forward, because we know it's gonna happen again.
There was 4 or 5 rulings from the bench during the trial, meaning that, you know, this is law now. And other cases could start using this as law now because of this
Case law.
Right, case law is correct.
Okay. That's
and
wonderful.
in our movement spaces, we hear of many families whose children have been killed. But just think if those cases had set legal precedents,
Exactly.
what we would have today for the new cases that are coming forward.
And it's always been our mission to do everything that we possibly can to have nobody standing in these shoes that we standing in now, because only an impacted family will understand. There's no pain in the world like having to go to the graveyard to visit your child.
Now, Roxanne and LaToya, we know without a doubt that death is happening. But there will never be a child to die in the manner in which Andrew had died, because the family stood strong in making sure that his name and the record was set clear that the Hillsborough County Sheriff Office and its deputies were responsible for the death.
That's right.
Where they tried to blame Andrew for his death,
Victim blaming.
Yeah.
court records will not reflect that. A jury of their peers would not reflect that, because that 10-person jury was not a jury of our peers. That was a jury of their peers. Because our people, refused to do jury duty. They came up with every excuse in the book not to do jury duty. So that jury of 10 people was a jury of all Caucasian or white light individuals.
A Republican jury.
So the Andrew Joseph Foundation is something we started in memory of Andrew, creating a legacy foundation where we're protecting children. That is what our work has envisioned, because if my child can lose his life going to a school sanctioned event, then where are children safe? Where can they go? Where can parents feel peace of mind in knowing that their children are loved, cared, and supported? So the Andrew Joseph Foundation was formed foremost for that purpose and grew into movement work with families through support groups, which we hold every third Sunday with families who've lost their children, through a multifaceted of community violence, suicide, mental health, an array of conditions which create destruction in our community. So I never felt right separating or dividing those groups. So they are also welcome in our support groups. And then mutual aid, teaching, providing meal trains for families who've learned that their loved one is killed, providing vendor services through having a cleaning service, because without a doubt, CPS comes in if other siblings or surviving children are not being taken care of. And I remember with just my own daughter, many times she would have relatives and people coming to bring her home, and it's like she had to eat the food that the strangers were sending because we weren't up for cooking meals and things like that. So, and even homework, she pretty much had the class teacher who would provide tutoring to her if she needed extra support, because her parents, both parents, were out of commission because we was just so ridden with the grief of Andrew leaving us and not knowing where we would go from here, because there was no supports there for us to tap into. So again, we promised ourselves that if this was to happen again to someone else, there should be an array of resources available for families to be able to tap into. And that began where we started, 2014, 2015, once we gathered our voices and started to do more and more and build more and more, and we continue to build today.
So basically, what we're coming in with today is a blueprint on how to. These first 48 hours, these first 72 hours, these first 2 weeks, because it's like a brick wall falls on your head. You don't have somebody that's got their head screwed on tight, gathering your information and taking your pictures, because during this time, most times the first scenario that the police delivers is the wrong scenario. But the information that they're gathering is to support their own story at that time. So you have to have somebody on the ground immediately talking to the witnesses, because that, after 48 hours, 72 hours, that red shirt becomes the orange shirt, and 2 o'clock becomes 6 o'clock, and Thursday became Wednesday. So you have to have somebody that's on the ground, that's understanding the dynamics of what's going on. And the family is going through a traumatic experience. So, we have people come over and cut the grass and have transportation for schools. And it's just a wraparound service. the fathers is gonna take the grief different from the mothers, and the kids are gonna be different than everybody else in the family. So we have wraparound services for everybody that's going through this traumatic situation. Because if you was burnt up, you'll be able to go to a burn center to get this kind of treatment. If you was suffering from cancer, there's a cancer place that you can go to get treatment. But when this happens to you, there's nowhere to go. Especially back in 2014, there's nobody to talk to. You think you're the only one that's going through this situation.
Yeah.
And we just made sure way back then that, you know, there'll never be that lonely feeling, not knowing which way to turn for anybody that's coming behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been pretty much the mission since day one.
Yeah. Well, I would like to, personally thank you all both for your sacrifice of sticking in there and making court precedent, having case precedents that's going to live beyond. It's going to live beyond all of us. It's going to live beyond all of us. They'll be citing those cases 100 years from now, 200 years from now, and that is extremely important. And I know it costs you something, and you had to sacrifice to do that. And so, thank you for making that sacrifice. I'm hearing you saying that you all do wraparound services for people who have been impacted with children, the loss of a child, not just by police violence, but just the many different ways. Have you seen like where there's a pattern of things that you see in people who are experiencing grief, or things that you specifically, say, yeah, we got to do these main things when someone.
Well, the thing I'm seeing the most is a sense of loneliness. People feeling as though their pain is not seen and their voices are not heard. And it is the most daring thing to see when we say names and we don't say another person's name. Okay.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart, because I know there is so many names, but it hurts when there is that deprivation of being seen in a place. There is also a lot as it relates to just feeling isolated on an island, because all you've ever known has been tested. And not to mention just family support being not what everyone envisioned it would be like if that loved one had not died, So the family dynamics has changed, and I see where the bonded family through the blood of our children becomes the more prominent family, the more endearing, because you share something in common that your biological and blood family don't share. So those are intentional relationships that I and my husband try to engage in a more sensitive and empathetic way, because it matters. Because these are wounded families. These are families who are surviving the most traumatic of experiences. So I just find us having to be a little more tender in our reach and our understanding that everybody deals with trauma in a different way and have come from different traumatic experiences.
Yeah, and I think that too, when they think their voice is like small, they don't want to. I think it affects the fight, right? Do you agree with that?
Definitely.
And we have defined grief,
yeah,
as love with nowhere to go.
Hmm.
And then you kind of that's grief as love with nowhere to go. And then you kind of find yourself in a different stage of this trauma. The first stage, is a traumatic stage when, it occurs. and you're going through all kind of denial. This can't be happening. I'm dreaming. I'm gonna wake up and everything's gonna be all right. Then you go through all kind of anger. You're mad with God. You're mad with the world. You're mad with everybody in your house. You're mad with everybody you ever met. You know, it's a lot of blaming that goes on in stage one. If I'd have did this, if they'd have did that, if she'd have did this, if he'd have did that, my baby will still be here. And at some point, you know, because stage one, you're real angry. And any little trigger can set you off because the world don't know what you're dealing with. And at some point, you know, you kind of graduate in different time stages for different people. You kind of graduate to stage two. And stage two comes with, you know, normal reasoning. And for me, it was that I was gonna never see my son, Andrew Joseph III, here on earth again. I'll never see him. I'll never talk to him. I'll never see him play ball again. I'll never hear his voice. You could never smell him. That was reality. You know, and during that time, you know, most times that's the time you kind of developing your voice because it's hard to have a voice in stage one. It's hard to say anything to anybody. You just a rolling emotions. But somewhere during stage two is when the statute of limitations usually run out. Because the minute you're ready to talk, you know it's been 2 years. And the clock has been ticking, so now you can't file any papers. So if you didn't have somebody working on the ground for you those 48 hours, those 72 hours, those first 2 weeks, your case is down the drain.
And that's true. A lot of times,
I ain't
that's
tell you no
a lot
lie.
of
I
times
ain't gonna tell you no lie. Now, eventually, you get to stage three, where most of us get stuck at. You see, because stage three comes with forgiveness. And you know, it's hard for me to stand up here and hug Officer Clark and tell him I forgive him and he's sorry and he shouldn't have made all those motions that night that you know set the train rolling to kill my son. And I forgive him and I love him and you know we could be buddy now. That probably would never happen. But that's part of stage three. That's part of, you know, God's test and your testimony to forgive the devils that harmed you. But also with stage three, because it comes a platform, you know, where you're able to give back to those families that's coming through stage one. And, you know, that also comes with stage three. But, you know, we all stuck on that forgiveness part that comes with stage three. So it's a lot of different stages that these families go through.
I'm not, ain't no giving on this side. So we be jumping right on the 4th side or 10, whatever that is. So like right over that, like
Yeah.
if I can do 1 and 2, but 3, like, that's a no-go. So,
I ain't ready. Melissa, can you put Andrew the picture back up? Yeah, so we can see this young man. If
he's a baby.
Just a baby face, right?
Honor roll student, all pro athlete, you know what I'm saying? He had just won the PBL, the Pee Wee League in 8th grade. That's his 8th grade graduation picture. He never made it to high school.
Oh,
That's crazy. And like I said again, I want people to understand, like, and y'all might know the story already, you might not know the story. But and then, like Deanna said too, going into more detail too, she was saying they did more things for her son what the news says. The news made it seem like it was on like but what I read, the news puts it out there like he got out of the car or whatever and then was walking around and went across the street and then whatever happened. But it's still one thing that happened to him and the transpire of all those things. Like I said again, y'all, these fights are not about just people getting money and getting checks and stuff. Well, the ones who take a settlement. People got to realize this too. You take a settlement, you do not create case law taking a settlement.
You can't create case law. You gotta basically
right?
sell your story after you take the settlement. You can never talk
That's
about your story in detail again. So nobody benefits. The community don't benefit.
Nobody benefits from that at all, period. Right.
The legacy don't benefit. So, you know, you got a strong case and you know you can persevere. Make sure you go to court with it.
And keep
Make
pushing
sure you go to
forward.
court.
That's
Keep
right.
pushing forward.
so
Keep pushing forward, y'all. That's what, like, put the power. A lot of times, see these families extra donations or not. This stuff costs money. Y'all
Yeah.
gotta realize that appeal lawyers cost more money than a regular lawyer costs, and they realize this too.
Yeah.
Almost like
And
a
you gotta-
doctor. You
And
ain't
most
going to the
people don't
art of
realize,
three
and most
eyes.
people don't realize that that's two
They
set of
don't get
lawyers.
it. Yeah,
That's two
it
set of
costs
lawyers.
money.
Part. That's part. And justice is reserved for those who can afford it.
That's what it is.
What the hell, right?
Yeah.
So if someone wants to get in touch with the Joseph Foundation, do you all have a website? Do you have a way? Because I really was like resonating with what you said about the first 48 hours and how it's important that they want to get some information on what they can do if this happens to one of their loved ones. How can they get in touch with you?
Yes, we have a 501c3 nonprofit organization named the Andrew Joseph Foundation, www.andrewjosephfoundation.com. There's a contact link that you can provide your narrative and your contact information, and one of our members will get in contact with you. All of our people on our board of directors and people we work with are volunteers. So keep that in mind, but we will definitely try to reach out within a reasonable time frame.
And, we cover cases, we cover families from, from coast to coast.
Yeah.
From coast to coast. And at this point, it's, it's part of our therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And what's so critical too is with the families we work with, we find it more essential to focus on creating campaigns and helping them identify ways in which they can win. How you can aggravate, agitate, and annoy the system that has stolen from you. And through that, when we say no justice, no peace, we want to make that a reality.
You really rattle it.
Right. So that is pretty much the core of our training when families come to us is, what are your demands? Who are your targets? Identifying who your targets are, and whether it's a warm target, whether it's a cold target. And we work that as systematically as possible, sometimes in conjunction with each other and sometimes separately. But it is essential to empower our families, because we know activists and organizers don't stay long. Right. So this has to be something we're vested in being able to create our own justice campaigns and putting our children's names back in our hands, and not being so reliant on systems and organizations to be able to do this for us. So that's where I am with this education, creating advocacy forums for our survivor families, and creating a greater legacy for what we leave behind.
Because as families, we have no control over when our loved one died. We have no control over, when the body disintegrates in a grave or the tomb. The only thing that we have control over as the living is their legacy. So as long as we're saying their name and if their pictures are forever floating through social media, their spirit is forever alive here with the living. And only when everybody forgets your name and nobody's looking at your picture, only then that you're truly dead. So long as we keep their name alive, we have that control. And, we're not fighting for anybody that's alive today. We're fighting for the seeds that's coming through the womb on tomorrow. Won't have to be on these type of podcasts.
Yes. Yeah, we don't want to add no more members to this.
That's right.
Unfortunate fraternity.
Well, nobody don't want to be in.
Anybody signing up for this one? Ain't nobody trying to pledge and all of that. Not for this one.
And this one, a life sentence, baby.
Nobody wants, right?
Nobody wants this.
Ain't no probation for it. We can't get parole. None of that.
None of that.
Ever.
Nothing. Not even a certifiable disability.
Okay. So
that's my next fight. Look, I'm like, everybody should get a certifiable disability with the harm you've created.
Okay.
They created dangers.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. A lot of harm and continuous. It's
Right,
perpetual.
this is the true public health crisis right now.
Truly, right?
Absolutely.
Right, that's
absolutely.
true.
So,
That's a whole other topic right there.
yeah, how about that? Well, it's been really a pleasure talking to both of you. And as I was listening to what you were saying toward the end here, I'm thinking to myself, well, sometimes I think about music. So with Beyonce says, real ones, y'all are y'all real ones. Some people in this movement are not real ones. Y'all are real ones. And you know why I know y'all real ones? Because you put yourself on the line. You sacrifice, right? So y'all qualify as real ones. And
I'm gonna, Roxanne, this real fast, so I do want to say too, speaking of real ones, because we always talk about people in the organization, right? Like Deanna said earlier, part of that has to be with us building a system to fight the system, right? I personally have reached out to Deanna on phone calls, plenty of times. Y'all know I ask 1,000 questions. I wake up ready to talk. And what she's always willing to do is whether she can find it or cannot find it, she helps me out. And that's how we have to be with family. So when it's not just people a lot of times they're all barking up bite, right? And people families will get reference to these resources where they don't really help us out for real. They say they're gonna help us out, but then when it comes down to really have a question, they don't know what to tell you. So I will say with the Josephs, what not considering their situation, and they have actually still helped other families out. It's not just a matter of them saying like, I'm doing that. Nah, they really are doing that for real. So families gotta look at the matter of it's not just the whole thing of like, they're going here, they're going there. They need to. If they're the ones going here and going there, whatnot, and spreading the knowledge and wanting to move forward and whatnot, those are the ones you got to put empower to keep moving forward. That's how you build systems, you guys. And you take the knowledge from them who you are listening to go forward, period. But it's up to you to take that knowledge to move forward. They can't do the legwork for you. That's with anybody. They can provide it for you. Now, you guys take that knowledge and move forward. They've been fighting for years now for Andrew, and they still fighting. That's the thing. They're still fighting, y'all. But keep in mind, we saw the picture up and everything, right? And like you said, within 72 hours, what was it, 48 and 72?
Yeah, 72 hours later.
Within that point in time, they appealed the case. Y'all gotta realize that, but we gotta still fight because they got case law. Case law is super important. If you don't know what it is, look it up. When we get off this podcast tonight, look it up and look how important it is as far as the system is concerned. That is how you beat parts of qualified immunity. They're still fighting that. So still look something up as well. So okay, ran over. I'm done.
But that was good. With real ones, y'all real ones. We're happy.
Respect, and we appreciate the platform. It's all love.
And we appreciate y'all. We appreciate y'all. So if you want to make a donation to their 501(c), go to the Andrew Joseph Foundation.org, make a donation. If you need some assistance from them, go to the Andrew Johnson and Joseph Joseph Foundation.org. It's one of those days. And see what resources are available to you. If you want to make a difference, get involved.
Right.
Get involved.
Help us help everybody else.
That's right. Help us help each other. We all in this together. Until next time. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Joseph. Thank you. And until next time, this has been Life After the Impact.
Good night, guys.
Peace.
Good night.
When you see something like a Jalen Walker, where about 100 shots are fired, which is obviously at least gross negligence, right? You're obviously acting recklessly. You're doing all the things that show we should take a closer look into this and hold someone accountable, and nothing happens. It usually speaks to, from my perspective, system-wide corruption. This is too blatant for there to be no accountability, no action and something that's egregious. And then it's important because, you know, some of us know the history that right next door in Cleveland, there were 150 shots fired not that long ago. So this is something that officers in this region are getting away with. And the district attorneys, the attorney generals are declining to prosecute, to do anything. So for us, when Jalen Walker happened, unfortunately, we were like, we have to do something very extreme to get attention, right? We were like, because if we don't, people are gonna pay attention. And not only that, that's what the prosecutors want. They want the community to be quiet. Yep. That way they can sweep it under the rug. Our goal is to let the prosecutors, the mayor, and other elected officials know this isn't going away.
That's right.
And you have to do something.